Hey everybody, welcome back to Plat Chat.
Oh, what a shitty intro compared to
let's
last.
start
Was
again.
that the intro?
I got
Was
thrown
it?
off because I couldn't see the confidence monitor. You're gonna leave it
Wow.
running? Jesus Christ! Welcome everybody to Plat Chat. I don't know what episode we're on. I've lost track of my life. My wife's left me. No, but welcome back everybody.
What about your child that's living in Thailand?
Yeah, he's struggling. You know, he can't find fish anymore. Overfishing is really hurting the industry over there.
Yeah.
Is it?
Overfishing.
Well, I don't know. I made that up, but let's
Overfishing is
talk about
hurting the fishing industry over there.
let's talk about some Overwatch, huh? What have we got here? The
You
week
sound
10
really happy.
match of the week. I mean, I actually don't know what this topic is. Week 10 match of the week.
Oh yeah.
Like,
well,
what was the
what
match?
was your match
What
of
do
the
we
week?
think the match of the week was?
Honestly, Bren didn't
Yeah.
even watch half the matches.
Dude, Bren was off. He was playing another game that could be kind of like Counter
Dude,
Strike.
no, okay, you guys are gonna stop with this shit because people have been fucking atting me on Twitter, being like, "Why don't you just quit the league if you don't care anymore?"
What?
Really? Yeah.
What?
People are super insecure about Valorant coming around.
I
Like they're
also-
incredibly
I
insecure
also-
about it.
I also want to say
Whoa.
that you last episode you openly said you didn't watch the games, and now
Yeah.
you're saying, guys, don't do this to me. Like we've done it to you. Like you've done it to yourself by being like, oh, I can't contribute. I'm gonna eat pizza during this segment because I didn't watch the game.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
That was really funny though. I
It was
applaud
good.
Bren. That was funny though.
What
I
was
mean,
your favorite
listen,
match, Brad?
what would you rather have? Would you rather me try and bullshit games that I haven't watched, or would you rather have me be up front?
That's maybe watch the games. Just watch the games.
I mean, you bullshitted about the games the first 2 years. Why can't you do it now?
All right, but what
If there's
what do we
anything I've
actually
learned
think
in Overwatch-
what do we actually think the match of the week was then? Because contrary to popular belief, I watched pretty much all of them apart from the Houston games.
Oh, the
Why- why'd you
Houston-
skip
yeah, that
those?
one was the match of the week. Honestly,
Yeah,
that was the match
Houston
of the week.
ones.
No, shut your mouth. It wasn't even that entertaining. Honestly,
No.
I was expecting that one to be a clown fiesta, and it wasn't.
Philly, Atlanta was good, and Philly, Paris was good.
Yeah.
Houston, Toronto was just kind of shitty for a game
I will say,
5.
I really enjoyed map 5 of Toronto. I'm
Houston?
blacking out.
Toronto,
Toronto,
Houston.
Houston, yeah. Because I didn't understand what the fuck was going on, and so it was super exciting. Like it was like I felt something, and I was
No, the
like,
the
okay,
series
double
was-
Symmetra,
yeah.
double Symmetra, Rhino Risa. Like, what is happening in this game? It's just chaos. There's shields everywhere. There's teleport shatters. It's like, and I just got excited
that series
watching
was
it.
so odd. Toronto comes out, dominates the first 2 maps. Harsha must have just started, getting his guys hopped up on some G Fuel. They come out in the second half, they just blow them out. I was like, what the hell? It was just so long.
But not your
Yeah,
match of the
I
week,
was
though.
kind of pissed.
Oh, no.
No.
I mean, you
No.
can't put Houston in the match of the week.
No,
You-
I actually think my match of the week was Philly Paris.
Yeah, I think Philly Paris was better than Philly Atlanta, and I think those
Yes.
are the
Yeah.
only 2 games that I would tell people to go back and watch. Honestly,
Yes.
But
I
those
also
2
watched
games were
them all.
both really good.
I would watch
them all.
Chengdu, Vancouver just for the shenanigans of just what.
No, Chengdu Vancouver was garbage.
If
It
you're, yeah,
was.
but if you're interested in what Vancouver looks like, I would watch.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay, Matt, did you watch that game?
Huh? I watched
Did
a
you
few.
watch that
I
game?
watched a bit of it. Yeah, I
Oh,
stayed
okay.
up because I did a head-to-head with Sideshow, which you can see
Yeah.
3 days a week
I was
on this
spamming in my
channel.
chat.
And I said
We're
that
keeping
the
ourselves
Titans,
accountable. I like that.
I said that the Titans were the argument for the best team in the league, and then they come out and they get Chengdu. I mean, they looked like they've been playing some fucking Valorant. I mean, they didn't know where the hell they were.
They didn't
Yeah.
look very good.
They looked
I think-
terrible.
I think a big part of that is probably the fact that they all just relocated to Korea
Yep. Yeah.
again, and they haven't. I think the rest of the Chinese teams. I can't remember where I said this before, but I stand by this idea that the Chinese teams have played Chengdu enough that they know how Chengdu play, and they know
to
that if
not get
Chengdu try
Chengdu.
and play the wrecking ball compositions or whatever into them, they're not going to get thrown off by it, and they're gonna swat them down, and they're gonna force Chengdu to play into them a little bit. Vancouver Titans are just they're not capable of doing that.
That argument doesn't sum up the reason why they lost and got dominated by the Guangzhou Charge playing
and didn't play Haxel.
the day before.
Yeah.
So I think the Titans are just a bad team right now. Like they don't understand.
They didn't play Haxel.
Well,
yeah,
do you think if Haxel was playing May for them, they would have won either of those games?
I saw Sumitsu on some Doomfist, dude.
F off with that. Johnny trying to farm some clout, dude.
I saw a bunch of people this kind of argument online. It's like, oh, where was Haxel? Why isn't Haxel playing? All the rest of this stuff.
Oh, you mean me? Yeah, that was me, Bren.
Was that you on Reddit on the 100 accounts? No, I don't think you're speaking for the plebeians, Johnny. But I think there's
Who knows?
more.
They're good people.
There was more that went wrong in that game than just an individual's performance. It wasn't like they lacked superstar DPS prowess.
True.
They lost because they were playing like a bag of cats trying to get into some catnip locked in a cupboard.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. They were scrambling at the cupboard doors.
Cupboard doors? Yeah, why not?
Yep, why not?
Oh, man. There's like 2 games of it's got to be Philly, Atlanta.
Do you think that was the Paris game more entertaining than the Atlanta game? I feel like it was. The completion of a reverse sweep is always better than fending off a reverse.
Okay, I'm going to say Paris, Philly could have been better than the Atlanta one. I just remember the Atlanta one way better because I casted it.
Yeah.
There's probably some bias there.
I think the Atlanta one was super weird that they didn't run Erster in the first 2 maps that they lost.
Yeah.
That was really strange. I didn't understand the reason for that at all. Like they were running off meta stuff with like Hanzo McCree and stuff like that. And Hanzo Tracer, McCree Tracer.
I really liked the Paris Fusion game though. It had all the makings of a series that was, just picante, Mm-hmm. It was, you had Carpe popping off on various moments in the game, especially to clutch it. Those classic Philly moments where he's clutching. You had what was it? Reverse sweep in the end. I mean, it's just a fantastic series all around.
You get to see Fury too play again.
Yeah.
I
mean, I don't think he. I mean, he didn't look stellar, but then again, I mean, Diva wasn't being played, so.
Yep. Yeah.
These reverse sweeps, I feel like they're a bit of a result of just hero pools, because it feels like so many times, time and time again, we see teams kick off with a weird composition, and then they just adapt to whatever the enemy team is playing, and they just come out second half and look way better. Same goes for Houston. Like Houston were just like trolling around, playing like freaking Pharah into Ashe on Numbani, and then they come out with Tracer and just play Tracer, and they just look much better.
This week's matches were brutal. We had 5 3-0s. Houston Boston should have been a 3-0, and Chengdu Vancouver easily could have been a 3-0. You would have had everything be a 3-0 outside of the Philly matches. Like, it's really not much choice here for match of the week. Just watch both of the Philly games. There you go.
Yeah.
Don't watch the first 2 maps of the first series. Watch the last 3, and the next one, watch a decent amount of it, and you'll be fine.
I think honorable mention would be the San Francisco Shock versus Gladiators, though, as well.
That was so weird. I want to hear what you guys make of that. That match was so weird.
That match was incredibly well. It was. I don't even want to say it was good. It was just like the Shock looked like when they have Super on the Rhine and Moth can play Lucio and you can play fast compositions that and especially with Rascal on May to split teams off, they'll be fine. I mean, they looked great running that.
Yeah, but it felt. I don't know. It was unrefined in a way.
The Gladiators.
I mean, it's Pools, but
no, they just. I mean, what are you supposed to do when you're gonna play the mirror like that? The mirror puts a wall up, does nothing. Rascal puts a wall up, he isolates one. They just barrel Super in, and he just pummels them. I mean, there's not really much else to it.
These 2 teams played actually pretty high levels. Obviously, Shock. More
no. Obviously, yeah. But it's like you can still play at a really high level and still play kind of scrappy. But that might just be a result of hero pools.
I didn't think it looked scrappy.
No. It was very high tempo. It was like the fastest game that we've. I don't mean fastest as in the shortest duration, but like the
Ilios was crazy.
Tempo.
Yeah, the fight. There were tons of fights, tons of.
Maybe that's why I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
It
was a good
really
game.
Fun, yeah.
Yep.
I think Miro was basically non-existent in the whole of the first map, and the Gladiators nearly won it. So that's pretty impressive there. Ants came out and clutched on the Tracer. That was interesting to watch.
He was popping.
He was sick.
Yeah, he was really good.
It's a shame he's been banned next week. Or this week. Which
Widow
brings me
and
on to my
Valkyrie
next
both
point,
gone.
which is hero pools. Bad for Owl? Question mark is the topic we've got. I mean, I feel like we've already come to the conclusion that we're.
No, but it's different now.
Is it different now?
Hero
Yeah, it's
pools.
been changed a lot.
I enjoyed hero pools.
Or has it
before.
always been like this? Jeff?
I was one of the ones who probably wasn't as hard on it. Now I'm like, okay, this is absurd. Like when there's a chance a Genji gets banned, like who's playing Genji? Like what is the high level competitive play it's based off of? Like can the four of us jump into ranked and play a bunch of 76 and see him just shoot up the board? Like I mean what is the cutoff? Because I feel like, okay, this actually hurts the game more than basing it off of Owl would, because this is now taking what the general population likes to play, which may not even be affected by what's in Owl, and just removing one of those at random.
Yeah.
So now you're making it worse for the people playing when you could have just said, okay, we're going to follow the Owl bans, right? And not ban the same heroes all the time, where a lot of these heroes would never get touched. Like you would never see Ashe get banned or Genji or somebody else, where the general population keep playing their game.
Yeah. When we had
this
this
makes way more of
theoretical
an impact.
When we had the theoretical idea, when we saw the rule change, I saw people saying, "Oh well, GM games are like if they base it off GM, they're basically the same as the Owl meta anyway, so it'll be somewhat similar." The amount of heroes, we had Ashe, Genji, Tracer on that list.
Yeah. May wasn't even on the list.
No, not on the list at all.
Because nobody's playing May because they don't like to play May, because nobody wants to play May.
And that's what I said.
She's never going to be on it.
I said this in my stream yesterday, I think, when the bans got announced and it got clipped and put on Reddit, of me just saying the system blows because people in ranked play what is fun, so you're more likely to pick a fun hero to ban. Like you're actually banning what people want to play. You're not banning what's powerful, you're banning what people want to play. That's not how Overwatch League works. People don't want to play May. People are forced to because it is the best composition. People don't do that in ranked. So you have ranked where people play the fun stuff and some of the stuff that they feel forced to play.
But how did we end up here though? Like that's what I don't get. Like
we ended up here because we wanted ranked to be the same as the Overwatch League,
which is
I
good.
think is a very reasonable thing.
Very
to
good.
Want.
Yes.
And it's good for the game. It means that the game that you watch is the same as the game that you play, and the pros can actually practice on the live server. But I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, because John Spector posted on Reddit as to why we're now going based on ranked. Is because in the Owl off season, they want the consistency. They want it always to be based off that. Yeah. But just do that in the Owl off season, and then in the Owl on season, run it by Owl. You can change it. You've changed this. You've changed this concept already like 7 times. It's fine if you change it once more per year.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think we should just get rid of it.
Burn it down.
You can't
burn it down.
Why not? Why can't you get rid of it?
I think the system has done some good stuff. Like I like the variation in play from week to week and whatnot. Maybe it could be extended longer than a.
Wait, here's a question though, Matt. Do you like it in Owl or do you like it in the game? Because I have never liked it in the game, but I will say that I have appreciated the change in Owl, but I dislike it in game because it removes choice from what I can play. I play Overwatch to play heroes, to play.
I never kind of thought of it as like being something that you could like split into two. I like it for Owl because you see different stuff. Like it keeps the meta fresh. Like I didn't really enjoy when it was like 8 months of the same thing, 6 months of the same thing.
Okay. Well, here's an alternative.
Yeah.
Get rid of hero pools.
Okay.
Balance aggressively every 2 weeks. Based on not necessarily numbers, but based on what people are feeling.
But I think though what we've seen is that regardless of so my counter to that is regardless of balance, what we've seen the Overwatch League and even compositions when you go on the ladder do since goats is they build around just high sustained types of compositions that can be brawly, that can get in your face, that regardless of what damage you do in terms of like AoE, whether it be a Pharah or a Junkrat, they just don't get played because it's just not worth it. And both teams mirror. So what are you going to do to balance it? You can't. It's just not possible.
Why?
Because what do you do? Then you make Farah just even stronger, let her insta kill people, right? I mean, what are we gonna do?
There's different ways to balance the game. I mean, I would make it so that sort of sustain has diminishing returns the more healing you apply to something, right? I would also I'd remove.
But I can't see them doing that though.
I'd trim a lot of the fat off some of the characters so that they're it's May would
Well,
probably
we
down to
haven't.
like what.
Well, I almost wonder why we haven't just gotten like a. They've taken some of the maps out and done like map reworks, right? Although they got rid of map pools now, but then they're going to limit the amount of games you can get in comp of Paris and Horizon.
Yeah, that's
but like
did they say limits or are they removing?
No, they're limiting. They're both but they're limiting the amount of.
Didn't they say they removed it from ranked but limit it in quick play or something?
Oh, they did. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know. I need to
pretty sure it was limited, but like. We haven't gotten a hero rework in a while. Like they could easily like pull out May or something like that. I mean, she's really the one that everyone's like angry about. Like you could pull like May, Orisa, maybe another hero or two, and say, hey, we're gonna rework them. We're gonna put them on the sideline, and I think everything would start to kind of go back to normal.
I've been thinking a lot about balancing, right? Just in general, over the last couple of days, which is rare for me. I don't normally think, but the thing that I sort of come to the conclusion with is I think a lot of game devs have a philosophy that they need to balance around the most common type of player, which is around like the gold plat level. You know what I mean? So you balance for like for their experience of the game because it's arguably theirs is the most important because they're your player base. But I feel like those players are often too bad to recognize what is good and what is bad. And that they make so many mistakes anyway that they're not going to be able to abuse the little tiny advantages that pro players can that makes a character good. Like we all know the amount of forum posts that we've seen on the Overwatch forums asking for Genji to be nerfed or Hanzo to be nerfed or all these different heroes that realistically aren't that strong. They die in one example. They have that one story in their head of how they died to him, and then in their mind they've already attributed it to being overpowered. I feel like you should just balance around the 1%. You balance around the top level of play, and if it's imbalanced at the lower level, they're probably too bad that they won't even notice it.
I mean, I don't even think that that's golden plat. I think also from my diamond games, like May is not powerful in my diamond games particularly. You don't have to play her. Well, she requires more team coordination than anything, so it's just not even that good in solo queue.
That was one of the arguments they've used on the forums with the development team, which it's like balancing. I think the toughest heroes for them to probably balance are May, Torb, and Sombra, because Sombra like does not have a high win rate in terms of the general population, but if they buff her at the higher levels, she becomes mental, like insanely good, because she's only good with team coordination. May and Torb, like they become good. It's just annoying for everybody to deal with.
Yeah, because the concept of the hero.
Are we sure that it's like an individual hero kind of issue? Because it feels like the main issue we have is just like characters with sustain. And Hawk had an interesting tweet from Atlanta Rain where he said that it's pretty ironic that we're just rotating between heroes with 250 HP all the time, like May, Reaper, etc.
Yeah.
So is it not maybe that we should look at just like we've done many times, just reducing the amount of health, reducing the amount of heal in the game? Because then, as a result, I think maybe you'll see less May because she's a character that is good, effective over time. Whereas you look at characters like Genji, Tracer, Widow, though actually, okay, like they're fun characters. Let's be real. Those are the characters that at least the people I know want to play. It's like, that's just how it is. The majority of Overwatch players I know anyway want to play McCree, Tracer, Genji, and those kind of fun heroes. So is it not that we should just like do a concept balancing around them rather than individual hero balancing? Because I don't think we'll get like Moira and Orisa and shit to a place where they're actually like,
no,
I don't know. I feel like we should just look at healing like in the game globally. We shouldn't just pinpoint one or two heroes. Because I don't want a super buff Genji either. I don't want Genji to have like lightsabers and shit. Like I kind of like Genji, but I think the game around him needs to change maybe.
I don't think it's to do with sustain personally. I think it's to do with how fast you can play. I think that there's a reason why they call them rush compositions in pro, right? Is because it's about being able to group up and push together. and it's about playing really fast to be able to get a pick before the other team can do anything. Like it counters playing against snipers because you can get in their face and get a pick before they can get a pick. It counters playing against poke compositions because you can get in their face before they can get any poke off. It's the speed at which you can group up and push that enables these kind of heroes.
But then before we nerfed Lucio's speed, the dominant composition was Goats, was it not? And we credited Goat's success because of their ability to speed boost around with 3 tanks. And just mow people down. So I feel like there's still something, like if Lucio is that good, there's still something that makes those tank compositions better than a dive composition.
But it's not just the Lucio. Like Lucio lets you get into position for it, but you also need some kind of CC to be able to like actually stop them just flying away anyway.
May multi-freeze.
You think back to 2018, and the reason that people didn't run Goats back then, when we had the like dive meta stuff, was because you would like speed boost around the map, and you could never pin anybody down. There wasn't like a really powerful. I mean, Shield Bash was in, but people were bad at using it. But you know, even before Shield Bash, when we had the dive metas in 2018 and 2017 and stuff like that, there was no Shield Bash. You couldn't use freeze to effectively CC somebody. There was no way of your death ball to actually pin somebody down. People used to run Roadhog in order to get hooks on people. There wasn't really a way of punishing the mobility, so the tanks would just continue to stall the objective, and that's why dive was so effective, because the mobility was better. But if you add CC into the game and speed, then the death ball comps just run at the mobility heroes, stun them.
There's a lot of ways to close the gap, like
it's gap closing and CC.
With the Maywall
becomes so much more like the way to play the game. And I don't think that you can really walk any of that stuff back. The CC just is in the game. I mean, multi-freeze would be a good idea, but as this is like a discussion of like how to fix the core of Overwatch. I don't think we need to fix the core of Overwatch. We just need to like steer the ship slightly in a better direction. And as long as you always steer the ship slightly in a better direction, you're eventually going to get to somewhere more and more fun. And I think that looking at the hero pools discussion at the moment, and from a balance perspective, if you continue to make radical changes like Bren was discussing from a 2-week to 2-week basis, then I think you're more likely to come up with good ideas of how to steer the ship positively rather than have hero pools constantly without the balance. Because there haven't been very many aggressive balances like the devs were talking about this year so far. Even though they said they were going to, there've been some of the balances have been good, but they aren't what I would call aggressive. Like nobody.
Yeah, like the May change came through, but it wasn't aggressive. Yeah, the May change wasn't aggressive. It took months.
Yeah, the changes are good, but they're not fast or aggressive like they said they were going to be. So I feel like there's a disconnect in their language that they're using and maybe what the community was expecting.
I do think I think hero pools have done good in certain ways. I also think, like, as a player, like, of Overwatch, just not even like take Overwatch League completely out of the equation. Like, the fact that I now, like, I can't use McCree or Widow, and then, like, if I have to play tank, I don't have Reinhardt, which means I can't really play Zarya, which I like to play. I'm just kind of like, well, what do I do? It just doesn't feel
and I
good
said
as a
this
player.
before the podcast, and I'll say it again. Like, Reinhardt is out of the pool, and if I were to queue as tank in Grandmaster on my main, I just have to play Orisa all week, and I'd rather like not. I'll just go play with you guys or something. Like I'd just rather not. And
I mean, if I was going to play Overwatch, I'd try and make dive work. I would just be messing around trying to make dive work as much as possible.
I don't have that luxury, unfortunately.
Right. Sure.
All right. But let's move away from this discussion.
They could go on a while.
Literally beaten it to death. Like, I mean, it's been all anyone's really talking about these days. Let's talk about the San Francisco Shock that we talked about a little bit earlier. Because they're an interesting team with the hero pools, because they've just been fluctuating in between, you know, being dominant and being a little bit average. I think it's widely attributed to the fact that Lucio was out of the equation. You can't play high tempo, so Shock don't look that good. But what do we make of Shock? The topic is a little bit disingenuous because it says, is Shock still a top team? I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. Shock is still a top team. Yeah. But do we think that they... I think on the last episode we were underrating them somewhat. We were dropping them down a couple of pegs, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we were underrating them, though. Here's the thing. If a team can only perform one style of Overwatch to a top level, then in hero pools, they're probably not going to be like an elite level team. And it's a bit worrying for like a playoff scenario if that isn't the style that's actually being played. So I don't know. I feel like
put it into perspective. If hero pools,
all right. So
if
hero pools,
let me throw you a scenario. Let's say we run with hero pools as it is now, and San Francisco Shock and Philadelphia Fusion battle each other for 28 weeks, week on week, with the random heroes being banned every week.
Yeah.
Do you think the Shock would come out more times, or do you think the Philadelphia Fusion would come out more times?
I think we haven't really seen the Shock play enough metas to know that for sure, because people's theory at the moment is the Shock are probably one of the best teams possible if you're playing this like aggressive Reinhardt-centric style with a Lucio and you're rushing teams down, right? It's similar to GOATs. It's similar to other stuff they've played in the past. I mean, pretty much only similar to GOATs, actually. It's not similar to the playoffs meta last year that they actually won in. But I think there's probably a bunch of other metas they are really good at, and there's probably a couple of metas that they're not. And one of the problems is whether they get a bad read on the meta. Like it wasn't last week. It was a couple of weeks when Lucio got banned. They still tried to play comps that would function much better with the Lucio. Like they were still trying to play like rush style kind of compositions, but without the Lucio. But I think that if they had tried to mirror, they might have just won. Right. But it's impossible to know that because they didn't, and we haven't seen any data of them mirroring with like double shield or any of that kind of shit. So I don't know is the answer to that question. I don't think we've seen enough.
I think it's too early to tell.
Too early? Johnny, do you have a different answer?
It feels weird to watch Shock win without Choyobin and Sinatra. And I mean, that just speaks to the level of play, the level of players this team has. I wonder if there's like an adjustment phase of not having Sinatra's shot calling in the team. I don't know if that's a factor. It might not even be a factor. Maybe Ans is the best shot caller known to mankind. I don't know. I have no idea. But it feels, I do have some question marks, but they keep winning, or like they don't keep winning because they lost 2 matches. But it feels like they're a super good team, and so I feel like I can't question them. I can't question their ability to play the game when they 3-0 the Gladiators, because obviously it's working. But it does feel weird to not see Choi or Sinatra.
I think that the Shock would come out on top, personally. I think just based off of the fact that I think pound for pound, the Shock I think has better players in specific roles than Philly could match. Philly might be able to outmatch them in a couple of scenarios with a couple of roles. Like, for example, I think Carpe right now. I think we had the discussion last week where we said, was it last week or was it actually on your companion stream, Josh? Where we said,
I think it was just on my stream. Yeah.
Carpe is Carpe the best DPS
of 2020 so far?
Like of
probably. I mean, the guy's Torb is crazy. Hanzo is good. McCree, Widow, like.
We also haven't seen that much Profit. He just spent second place.
And Profit's another candidate for that. But I still think I would.
Even Monty joined in and talked about Carpe versus Profit on Twitter.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, because we had a discussion on Watchpoint where it was like, okay, Carpe was like 600 solo kills, something. Like he has a bunch of records, right? Because he's been playing all matches and he's been like one of the number 1 DPS players. So he holds all the records pretty much, like eliminations, final blows. He's leading the charge. And so the question came up was like, is Carpe the GOAT? And I said no, and I think it's Profit. But then there were tons of people who were like, well, we think Carpe is the GOAT. It's a conversation people are having.
I think it comes down to if Carpe dominates this year, because Carpe didn't do well last year. No, he was just pretty average. So, 2 years of Owl, and one of them was spent with him not doing that well. And I don't know. Profit's in a semi-similar boat, but I think he did better than Carpe last year, playing a role. He was playing whatever the hell his team wanted him to play, but Profit was the thing that kept the London Spitfire in it. So, and Profit achieved more before the Overwatch League.
One interesting thing. Sorry, one last thing.
Yeah.
Devil's advocate, because I love for this discussion. I think it's a great conversation. Devil's advocate as well. I think you can add in the argument that Profit has had better support staff around him throughout his Overwatch League career. Is that?
Overwatch?
Yeah.
Overwatch. You mean support system as teammates, not.
Yeah, like Bedosian, Fury, Gesture.
Yeah. Okay. When I hear support system, I think of like
Coaches.
Coaches, housing, like manager. I think of all of that. Like,
Yeah.
you mean like supporting cast has been better than?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Well,
but
Yeah. I mean, that is.
Johnny, I'm so glad you want to continue this topic because that's exactly what we're going to do, but we're just going to change the lower third. Is Philly still the number one team? Is the Fusion still the best team? Because I think this is kind of fitting, isn't it? Carpe's playing so well. There are a couple of candidates who might be better than them right now, namely probably Shock, Shanghai, maybe Seoul. We haven't seen Seoul being played that much.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? From what we've seen so far, do you still think Fusion are number one?
This is going to be a complete cop-out. But if New York ends up playing in Asia, where we've seen a few of their players say they're in Korea or whatnot, Paris no longer has Exy. He's back in Korea for a neck injury, so who knows if he's going to be able to come back?
Yeah.
Who knows when he's going to play again? London's out of the Atlantic as well. Who are they really? It's just them and the Shock, and who
It's them,
knows
Shock,
when
and
we're gonna.
Seoul.
Well, no, Seoul's
Oh, you mean in
Asia as
in
well.
America, the best team in America.
Yeah, Seoul's in Asia as well. Like, who are we gonna see them play? That's really like tough competition. Like, it's what gonna be the Shock and Atlanta.
Well,
and
Atlanta and
maybe the
Paris. I think
Gladiators?
Paris is still going to be good without Exy. Like Paris didn't play Exy at all this week.
No, they didn't.
Presumably because of the neck injury.
Yes.
And they were still fine. Like Soon plays all the heroes that Exy does. He just isn't quite as explosive as Exy is. He's a bit more safe, a bit more solid.
I just feel like you won't. I think Philly will be a clear, like, out of all of those teams I listed, they're at worst going to be what, second or third to Shock and maybe Atlanta. I don't know if we'll know how they kind of stack up in the global scene until later in the year.
Yeah, I mean, considering that they had 3-2 wins over Atlanta and Paris, I think their spot at the top, even if they do hold that spot, is very tenuous at best because they could have lost to either of those teams.
But isn't there something to be said though about, like, we've seen them now over multiple weeks with different compositions still be able to win? Like, I think that is something we haven't seen from many other teams in general, which is why I think right now you would have to say they are the best team. Yes.
Yeah, because
I think so. I think you have to say that Philly are the best team right now, but I think there's a strong counter argument to be made for the Shock if you really do believe that their previous week where they played against Valiant and Gladiators was a bit of a one-off.
Yeah.
And also I think you could make the argument for Seoul, except we haven't seen enough of Seoul yet.
I just feel like it's a bit dishonest to Philadelphia when Shock lost to Gladiators and Valiant, and then Philly in 1 week beats both Paris and Atlanta.
Yeah,
I mean, those are two tough matches. You have to give Philly some credit.
Right. Multiple weeks, different metas. They've beaten everybody they're supposed to beat. They have to be your number one team right now. And they have a sick roster, right? Where I think this roster is going to be able to handle every meta.
If I was to ask you
as well, Johnny, the fact that they had to play two very tough teams in the same weekend. Like, there's only so much prep you can do.
Yeah.
What are you going to say, Josh?
I was going to say, just gut feeling, if the Shock and Fusion played this week, on the previous meta,
right?
Who do you think
the Shock probably win that? The Shock probably do win that, I think.
Ooh.
I have the same gut feeling that it would be a close game, but I think the pace and the tempo that Shock play at
favors the Shock.
They probably win that.
Yes.
Because the Fusion have also looked a bit shaky in their games. Like they haven't been dominant in their wins over top teams.
I would say, though, there are a lot of other metas in different weeks where I would probably favor Philly.
Yeah, there'd be some. I don't think there'd be many. I can't think of one off the top of my head where I'd favor Philly, though.
Lucio band.
If there was like a Lucio band and a slower, like McCree-centric game with like a Carpe on the McCree,
we're talking like double shield, Orisa Sigma kind of thing, but with
almost with like a no May in the mix with like a Bap Zen. Yeah,
maybe. I'm just, whenever I hear this stuff about the Shock being bad without Lucio, I just have to think back to when they were playing the playoff compositions and they just rolled everybody, and there was no Lucio there.
Baptiste.
Yeah, Moth and Batiste, and they had the Mercy in as well, and they just dominated. So I think when I went and looked over those games where the Shock played against the Valiant, I think they just had a bad read on the meta.
Yeah,
I don't know whether it'll happen again, but at the same time, you can't just go on faith.
You can't just erase it. Yeah.
On the other side of the ocean, we've got a team known as the Shanghai Dragons, and they are. Have you guys been watching many of their games?
Yeah, I heard the Voids guys.
I catched a few. I haven't seen their most recent ones.
Okay.
I've been watching them all.
They look strong in their most recent games. They looked very strong, and I think people are probably because most people are going to be missing those games because they're so late at night, early in the morning if you're European or whatever. But Shanghai looked good. They look on point. They look coordinated.
Yeah.
They're playing some clean Overwatch, which is kind of surprising to me, but not surprising over the grand scheme of things. I think all of us expected Shanghai to be potentially maybe even the number one team out of all of them this year. So we're starting to see this team finally come to life. The only thought I have is it's a shame that we're not going to see them almost cross-pollinate, with the other side of the region.
But we are gonna get to see them play Seoul Dynasty soon. You're gonna get to see them play potentially NYXL if they're there.
Yeah.
You'll get to see
good-looking Titans as well.
You'll get to see them play a good-looking Titans.
A good-looking?
You want to say what? You want to say
eventually they're going to
because at the moment the Titans look dog shit, right? Like they've got no read on the meta. Their teamwork's all over the place. But if the Titans start playing a little bit better, like they start playing normal comps, let's say, and they still are getting beaten by the Asia teams, and also if Seoul starts getting beaten by some of the Asia teams and New York is getting beaten, you have to start thinking that the Asian region is just better. And I was so surprised looking at Avast's power rankings recently when he rated all of the top American teams above the Asian teams, because I know that it's difficult to be able to tell which is better, and it's hard to not just put one region on top of the other region, because all of those games in America were 3-2 games. Like the Paris, Philly, and Atlanta must be so close in terms of their skill level. So either it's kind of like likely that they're either all better than the Asian teams or all worse than the Asian teams. So I don't mind it too badly, but I do think that watching those Asian games play out, that even teams like the Charge and the Hangzhou Spark are very solid teams that look like they're about as capable as like a Gladiators.
Yeah.
And then you've got Shanghai who are just giving them the dick. So I think
Josh, you little pissant, if you want to try and come for the king, the throne of Ast, put your money where your mouth is. Let's start doing some power rankings right now. So
you want to do, but that's the reason why I think Avast failed is because I think it's a crazy task to try and blend North America and
all of them in one.
Oh, it's easy for you to cop out.
But, listen, I'll do it. But I'm saying it's
cop out, isn't it? You're gonna throw some shade at him from your bloody glass palace, wherever the hell you're living these days. It's more of a shack.
From his fucking sewing room, dude. He's gonna throw some shade from his sewing room.
Let's do power rankings. I can barely.
Jesus.
Are we doing power rankings for the whole league now since we called Avast out? Well, we didn't call Avast out, Josh.
I do it on a weekly basis because I have to, so I'm fine with it.
But these are power rankings people will actually see, though.
Bro, you can't.
Whoa.
He's not even here to respond to himself. Okay, so the current power rankings that we have.
Johnny,
he was roasting Johnny.
I was roasting Johnny.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
I wasn't listening to what you were saying. Anyway, you
can tell Bren's got somewhere to go.
I'm trying to decipher this tiny text on my screen. I can barely see anything. I think so we've got Chengdu and Houston in their own zone at the bottom.
I still think they remain in the Chengdu zone.
I don't think you need to put the Chengdu. No. I think that both Chengdu and Houston proved themselves this week. Zone? I think they've both proven themselves this week because
they don't belong on the naughty step.
No, they're not on the naughty step anymore. I think Houston proved this week in their 2 wins that they can play meta compositions. They basically played the meta comp. Yeah. They played some May Tracer, which isn't precisely meta, but when you have a player like Dante and you're playing against lower level teams, then sure, that is a very viable strat. They weren't playing anything weird, and they won. And they won against 2 teams that we thought were about their similar kind of level. So I think Houston Outlaws have proven themselves as a decent roster. I mean, not amazing, but decent.
Wait, did you say Houston Outlaws?
Yeah, Houston. I think they're playing okay right now.
Yeah.
And also, I think the Chengdu Hunters are playing okay when it's double shield. They look atrocious when it comes to rush compositions like Reinhardt, Lucio comps. But when they're playing double shield, they looked all right.
All right, so Kurt, if we could put Houston in the Americas section up top, and let's start doing
America section. You have 2 sections. What a cop out!
Well, do you want to do 2 sections and then merge them?
Yeah, let's try that. Let's try it.
We'll blend them. We're going to use science to try and distill this down.
Oh, and I can make it a little bit easier. Okay.
The best part is we can't
Yeah.
see this. We
All right.
cannot see this.
So
Only Bren
I think
see
we
it.
can all agree the 4 worst teams are Boston, Washington, Florida, and Toronto.
Yep, I agree,
Yeah.
and I think it's in that order.
Yeah.
Starting from the bottom with those 4, right?
Wow.
I think Florida might prove themselves to be a little bit better
Toronto?
than maybe Toronto, but I think that it's fair to keep them down there for now.
Boston.
I
want to
say that about Washington too. Washington are 2-7.
Yeah.
Like what happened there?
I mean,
some people were bullish on Washington going into the season.
Dude, Avast had them at like
alive.
7th in his power rankings. Bren had them at like 5th.
Yeah, I had
I
them
think
at 5th.
Jaws had them really high as well.
Yeah.
But okay, but my reasoning for Washington being high is in the fucking gutter because it was because they didn't have to travel much. Now no one's traveling.
Yeah.
Do you think it would have made a difference?
All right.
Yeah,
so
I actually do think it would have made a difference.
I don't think it would have made a difference.
all right. So here's the thing. So those are your 4 worst teams: Boston at 20, Washington at 19, Florida at what 17th, and then Toronto.
No,
at
Florida
16th.
18. Florida 18, Toronto 17.
Oh, 18. Sorry. All right. I forget
Math. I know it's hard to count to 20,
Yeah,
but
it's difficult. Okay. So now our top 6 teams, I think, without question, across all of us, are Philly, Shock, Seoul, Atlanta, New York, and Shanghai.
I can't believe you don't have Shanghai
No.
as third.
You don't have Paris in there. I don't have New York up there. I have Paris instead
So you
of New
think
York.
Paris is
But
in
did you
there?
just say New
instead of-
York are up there, Matt?
Yeah, in the top 6.
Have you seen the teams that New York have actually beaten? They have been pounding the bottom feeders, and their only game against a
All
good
right,
team,
fine.
they
So
lost.
we'll remove New York for Paris.
And now New York are waiting for a favorable hero pool. They're not even playing anymore.
I
Yeah.
know. Imagine dodging the league until you get a good hero pool. Imagine.
All right. So can we agree that those are the top 6 then?
Yeah, but I don't think it's in that order. But
No. I wasn't using it in that order. But here's how we can kind of get this global power ranking. Let's rank those 6 teams.
Okay, the top team right now, I think
Yes.
you can make an argument for either Shock or Fusion.
I
put
think
Fusion.
you have to say Fusion because they've beaten.
Fusion?
Yes.
Yep.
I think
so
they've
as
beaten
well.
better teams and they've beaten more teams across more metas.
Okay,
I think
so
the question comes in number 2. Is it Shock, Seoul, or Shanghai?
I put Seoul.
Really?
Seoul!
I think
That's
Seoul
what
are
you
really
mean.
good, but they've only played 2 games. How
Yeah,
high
I
can you rate
know.
those two?
It's whack. It's
yeah,
whack.
we haven't seen them enough. I would actually put Shock, then Shanghai, then Seoul.
I was leaning towards that as well.
But
All right.
there could be a world in that Seoul play and they just pull a Vancouver Titans and they just shit the bed.
But
Shanghai
but
over Seoul.
Seoul were absolutely
Yes, 100%.
dominant in their
Shanghai
matches.
looked great.
Yeah.
But
So
no,
did Seoul.
I think Seoul looked even better than
Who gives
Shanghai
a fuck
when they
about
played.
power
But
rankings? I can't believe we're doing this.
Seoul looked great that week because they were able to play Marvel and Gesture at the same
Yes.
time.
Yes,
We
I
have
think
not
that's
seen
true.
them play anything outside of Gesture on his best hero on the Orisa, Marvel on the Sigma, which he's sick at. We haven't
But
seen anything else.
are we going to pull them down the rankings just because they haven't played?
Is ranking them 4th after 2 matches a horrible thing to do?
I feel like all
Over
right.
Shanghai, who's 4-1.
If we ignored the amount of matches that they've played, right? If we just thought about how good they looked and assumed that that would extrapolate across everything, they looked amazing.
But you can't extrapolate that across everything because it's different hero pools each week.
But your argument is to extrapolate downwards
Yeah.
because you're like assuming that they're going to get worse.
He doesn't
Yeah.
know. He's smiling.
They might
He's like,
stay.
yes.
They might stay the same. They might even get better.
There's no way they get better.
You think that's absolute peak Soul Dynasty that we saw in
Yeah.
the first games?
Yeah.
I mean, it might be.
Oh,
But
I think it
I
is.
think you need to have some sort of decay system where if they haven't played for a while, they just kind of sink down a little bit.
I feel like that's reasonable. I really feel like when I watched them, they looked amazing, and I kind of want the power rankings to reflect that. You know?
Well, okay,
think
but these are
overall
power
is
rankings
pretty-
going into next week, and like
Fourth
who knows
overall
what's
is-
going to
They're
happen.
not even
right?
playing next week. Soul aren't even playing next week.
Yeah.
So fuck it.
I think Seoul. I think so. Right now,
Johnny,
we've
what
got-
do you think? Seoul or Shanghai?
I don't really give a shit.
Okay.
All right, let's
You're
go for
just here so you
Shanghai.
don't get fined. Okay, fine. So Shanghai 3rd, Seoul 4th, then the other 3.
right. It's between Paris and Atlanta now.
Yes, who's better, Paris or Atlanta?
I think Paris are better. I think Atlanta haven't really
Yeah.
played against many
Okay.
top teams. And the first time that they played against a top team, it was Philly, and they ended up losing. But it was a really close game.
Very
and they
close
looked
match,
very
though.
good. Yeah, they looked very, very good. But I think that Paris also had 2 really, really close matches, one of which they won against the Fusion. So I think you have to give the edge to Paris.
Haven't Atlanta also played a ton of double shield?
Yes.
Like, they've been pretty lucky with their tank meta, considering double shield is probably their best tank composition.
Yeah.
I want to see them be successful with like dive and
or just some diva comps.
Some diva comps, yeah.
All
right, so here's the next
gracious
teams.
me.
Yes. Okay. So here are the next teams. We need to figure out where they go. New York. All right. So who's after Atlanta?
So we have Gladiators, New York, Vancouver Titans, Hangzhou Spark, Guangzhou Charge, London, and Chengdu.
All right.
But you have to put New York over Atlanta. Like, I know they've beaten a lot of bad teams.
New York over Atlanta?
Come on. Like, I know they've beaten bad teams.
No.
They've beaten bad teams.
I put New York right behind Atlanta.
No, I don't even do that. I don't even do that.
Okay.
New York didn't look good when they played.
Where do you want to put New York?
I want to put New York way down, honestly.
I think New York are below.
Way down?
I think New York are... Yeah, I think New York are below.
5-1. They're 5-1.
They're 5-1. Far, like, okay, who did they beat? Tell me a good team that they beat. Tell me a medium team that they beat.
They haven't beat anyway.
They've turned up. They've rolled over some like tier 7 scrub lords.
Would you say?
And they just farmed the wins.
I would be okay putting like after Atlanta. I would be okay with like Gladiators and then New York.
I think personally that the Asian teams are better than the Gladiators, but I know that that's a hot take. I think that the Charge and the Spark are probably higher level than the Gladiators, but if not, it's Gladiators, then the Asian teams, and then New York.
I don't think so from what I've seen.
What, you don't think that the Asian teams are better?
No, I think Gladiators are above the Charge and Hangzhou, but I think so. Here's my proposed list. Agree or disagree? I've got to really zoom in so I can see with my eyes. We've got Gladiators, Spark, Charge, New York.
Think if New
Did you get lost?
You think if New York played the Charge today, they would lose?
Yes. Yep, I don't think that New York have looked good. Okay, so NYXL have played against bottom teams, right? Let's just actually assess where New York are at. Okay. They played London and Boston to open up. They actually had a close game against London. It was a 3-1, and they almost could have lost another map against the London Spitfire. London aren't right at the bottom, but they're kind of down there. They were having super close games with all the other guys. Then they got boomed by the Fusion. Wasn't even close. Absolutely boomed.
Yeah.
What, Johnny?
I do think that New York, large part of why they've looked bad at the start of the season was because they couldn't figure out who was playing May, and that affected them multiple weeks in a row. And I think once they figured out that Libero was going to mantle that role, and they actually figured out their substitutions a bit better, I think they looked better. So I do think that they figured stuff out over time, and therefore
I think they looked better. But they were also playing against the Houston Outlaws when they were garbage, and then Florida and Washington. So, like, they have literally just beaten all of the bottom teams that we were talking about. Like, everybody that you would put right down there at the bottom, those are the teams that they've beaten.
But
they lost maps against them.
The concept is just dumb at that point, because it's like you could literally say they're number 5 or number 10 because they haven't beaten anyone in between. And so it's just like my brain is melting.
It's not just that they're... All right, you might say they're number 5 if they rolled all of these lower level teams while looking really clean, and they had like a close loss to the Philadelphia Fusion, something like that, right? Then they could be number 5. But they looked bad in the loss to Philly. They looked bad when they were playing like, who are you and Jonah getting caught out all the time in these first games, even when they're playing against London Spitfire and stuff. And then they only looked better later on, and we can't even really assess how good they looked because they were playing against the actual...
it's been like a month ago, right?
All right, so...
And yeah, it was really, really long ago.
So let's go with that. So the Gladiators, the Spark,
I think the Charge are better than the Spark, personally.
Yeah, but you have always been hot on the Charge.
How much has Neptuno PayPal you? How much did he pay you?
All right, they've won each. They've played against each other twice, right? The first time the Charge won, the second time the Spark won. There were 5 map series both times. They always came down to like the absolute wire. Both teams are almost exactly the same. The only advantage that you can speak of is that they managed to squeak out wins against the they beat the Chengdu Hunters pretty easily this weekend. I don't know. When I look at these teams, I feel like Godsby is hard carrying the Spark right now, and the Chargers are much more even spread across the team. I think it's going to be better.
Don't move that thing up. I see him trying to move Charge up. He's being swayed by your silver tongue.
What's the reasoning for the Spark being above? Because I think they're almost perfectly equal. But if I have to put one above the other,
I think on paper, I look at Charge and I would agree with you. I think they are the better team. But when it comes down to the gameplay, when I'm watching these teams play, I think there's still this carryover from when this particular coaching style that's just infected this team since the get-go, since its inception, where they just focus on 1v1 Rust quickscoping lobby gameplay. Rust. Where they're just trying. Do you know what I mean though?
No
you don't know what I mean by that. It feels like this is a team that's so focused on almost individual mechanics, or more so than they have team play. Okay, I'm not saying that they're wandering in like Chengdu Hunters. They work as a team well, but I think Hangzhou Spark are more coordinated when it comes to the matches. When I watch these teams play, I feel like I'm watching a more coordinated team, a more put together team.
I always felt better about Hangzhou than the Charge.
Josh, honestly, I want to agree with you more than anything, because I rated Hangzhou really poorly coming into this season because I thought they've made no additions. The only additions they made of two bloody Chinese players who are good, like Coldus and Mika, good players, but realistically probably just got them for the Billy streaming team, you know? Like I want to be down on Hangzhou, but from watching the games, I have to say that I think Hangzhou look better than
the reason that I'm saying the Charge broadly comes down to their performance against Shanghai, because that's I think where you get some kind of idea of maybe which team is better. Like, how do they perform against the better team in the region, rather than like, are they beaten up on Chengdu or any of that shit? And I think that Charge, now both teams did lose 3-0, but the devil's in the details of like how close the maps actually were. And I felt when I watched both of those matches that Charge put up a better fight. Like they lost and they didn't have many opportunities to win those maps, but they kept every map close, if you know what I mean. Like they were always it always felt like they were gonna lose but it was always by a very small margin. Whereas I feel like the Spark kind of got blasted on a couple of the maps.
Okay, well, we are split. We're torn.
Yes.
It comes down to the deciding factor is Johnny and Matt.
I think the Spark are better than the Charge. I said that earlier. I'll say it again.
I'm gonna go with Charge because I haven't watched reviewed and I trust.
All right, so
Kurt, my God, let's split that. All right, Kurt, you decide.
Kurt decides.
Kurt decides. Kurt is closing his eyes and just randomly switching between them. Spark at the on top. Okay.
It is a 50-50.
So the Charge right underneath them. In 10th, you would have the Chengdu Hunters.
New York.
Then
New York. Okay.
Yeah.
So New York in 10th. The Hunters, where do you put them?
I think
the Valiant and Dallas are maybe better than the Hunters. But
no, I don't think Valiant are better than Hunters. I think Valiant. So? No, I think Valiant look really good when they get to play their double shield. But like against Shock, they looked pretty.
Also,
dreadful.
What about London?
And, like, it's the San Francisco Shock, but like I didn't like the shot calling. Like I would review that match, and they just didn't look good. I just didn't like.
Is London better than any of those?
London are pretty.
Could you give the Titans the benefit of the doubt?
No, fuck off. The Titans just got slapped around by the Hunters. Get out of here.
What about the Outlaws?
Get out. The Outlaws are okay, but I don't think they're at that kind of level yet.
All right.
No,
so
I think
at this point, we're still talking about some teams that can do well. Like if they hit a good meta, they can beat even the top teams. That's the kind of spread that we're still discussing.
I would say I kind of want to put the Hunters right underneath New York.
I don't mind that. I don't think they can consistently perform at that level, but I think they sometimes can perform way above and like beat
on a given week. They are the super team.
I have to be the one sticking up for New York fans because I'm just boomed. I can't make proper counter arguments because Josh is right. They haven't beaten good teams and they've looked a little bit shaky. But I cannot believe that we're down here in the trenches talking about Mano, Hotba, and Jonak, Liberal, Sabiobi, and all of these incredible players. And we're like, are they in the top 10 of the York League? Like, I feel really bad. I'm stunned.
So do I.
Well, hold up. They are in the top 10.
They're
Okay,
10.
they are.
They're
I
10.
can't see the list. I don't know.
Yeah, so let me read out the current list that we have.
Yes.
And this is actually finished, I think, in my opinion. We've really
Right.
distilled it down to its final elements. We've got the Philadelphia Fusion at number 1. Okay. San Francisco Shock as number 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Shanghai Dragons number 3. Seoul at number 4. Paris at 5. Atlanta 6. Gladiators 7. Hangzhou Spark 8. Guangzhou 9, New York 10, Chengdu 11,
Yep.
Dallas at 12, Valiant at 13, London 14, Vancouver Titans at 15, and Houston at 16.
Okay, I don't. Okay, two things I don't agree with there. I don't think that Dallas should be above Valiant just because they beat them. I think that they had to put on like a ridiculous individual carry performance from their DPS in order to win that game, and I don't think that that's consistently reproducible. I think the overall team play was better from the Valiant, and they're more likely to, like, if you ran that match 100 times, I think the Valiant win most of those games because Decay doesn't just drop a bajillion kills.
Yeah.
Like, he did, and it was amazing, but if that's what Dallas are relying on, that is not going to get them wins.
Okay. Do you think across several hero pools that Valiant has a better roster than Fuel? Or do you think that hero pool was better for the Valiant? Because I think that hero pool was better for the Valiant.
I think the only way that Dallas get their wins is by their DPS duo clutching super hard. I think that the rest of their team is, broadly speaking, beaten by most of the rest of the league.
Yeah.
And they don't have the greatest team play in the world. But I do think that Decay and Doha are an outrageously good duo. So how many of these hero pools do I think that Decay and Doha can carry this team? And I think that it's not that many
handful.
because we're in quite a team play oriented kind of system, and even then, against the top teams, they're gonna have good enough DPS
You
to be
would
able
put
to
the
counter.
Fuel over the Outlaws.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think that they can outpower the Outlaws,
Okay.
but I think the Outlaws are at that kind of level where that would actually be a good game. Like,
The
Would you
Outlaws have
put-
just been moved up above London and Vancouver.
No. That was the other thing that I wanted to comment on as well. I still think that the Titans should be placed above London. And I still think that those teams generally should be placed above Houston.
But behind Dallas?
I don't think that's a question. I don't think the Outlaws
I
are
think so.
that good. I mean, Dante on Tracer is incredible, but overall, I don't think Outlaws are that good. I mean, Outlaws to me is like 15, 16. No,
So you would say-
And starting to improve as well. The Outlaws are improving. I think that's
no, they're just playing Tracer.
I think they looked awful when they previously played any kind of main meta, and they at least had like some level of coordination around that this week.
So this would be our list then, from 1 to 20. Philly, Shock, Shanghai, Seoul, Paris, Atlanta, Gladiators, Hangzhou, Guangzhou, New York, Chengdu, Valiant, Fuel, Titans, London, Houston, Toronto, Florida, Washington, Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad for New York, but what can you do?
I mean, I also think that
Swede.
some of these teams will bounce back. Like Titans
Yes.
being rated this lowly,
No,
I
Josh,
don't think
no,
will
no,
last
no.
that long.
We've put it in cement. We found it.
Yeah, this is supposed to be an
Yeah.
ephemeral kind of thing that just sums up their current performance, but
Right.
or their performance so far over 2020.
I
I'm
can't believe we did
I'm
this.
actually
We
happier
wasted
than
our
I
time.
should be with this list.
Yeah, I feel
I'm
like this is
happier
okay.
than I should be with this list. I think this is quite fair. We discussed it out.
Yeah.
Some fans are going to be annoyed, but I think this is
Dude,
good.
like, honestly, if you're No, I'm not going to go there.
Go on, Johnny. Go on,
No.
Johnny.
Yeah, what?
Go
Come
on.
on, Johnny. Come on. You haven't,
What are you going to say?
You haven't had passion all episode.
I mean, if you still think that power rankings this year with the split regions and hero pools hold as much weight as they did as of any time last year, when we were in the same arena, all teams could practice each other, we had the same meta without hero pools. If you think power rankings this year has the same value as to last year, I don't know where you're coming from, Reddit
What do you
user.
mean?
Like,
The official way to rank
reconsider the
teams.
concept and the basics behind the
But
power
it's the
rankings.
official way to rank the teams, though. It has to be the official thing.
Are you saying that
how
the
else do you
Houston
rank
Outlaws
them?
are not good?
Yeah, how else did you rank them? Yeah.
Are you saying that my Dallas
I don't know what you
Fuel
want me
are
to say.
not good?
I'm just molding over power rankings.
Me and Josh have the
Because
same.
it's so subjective. It's so subjective.
Yeah.
the same
It's
sense of
unbelievable.
humor where we're just gonna keep pushing Johnny to triple loads.
No, I don't have a sense of humor. Yeah.
I kept getting people in my
let's
chat.
go over to our match predictions for the week. We chose
Go
a
on then.
couple of matches
okay.
to go through. Let's run through these nice and quickly then.
Yep.
The first one we've got is the Gladiators versus Valiant. We all think Gladiators are going to be beating the Valiant here.
Yes.
I think that's a fair
I think they're
assumption.
just I think they're the better
Gladiators
team.
Yeah.
I think Gladiators look
I think
pretty good.
Valiant have better DPS maybe, but I think they're the better team.
Dude, my hair,
Gladiators.
I ordered some hair clippers on Amazon. They're going to take like 3 weeks to get here. I mean, holy moly. You got some, Kurt?
Are you gonna clip your hair?
I'm going to cut my hair, yeah.
Oh god.
Do it on stream.
Yeah,
Sub goal?
I think a
Sub
stream
goal?
is actually the best way to do it, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, besides the
1,500
point.
subs.
Any comments to make on this one? I think that we're all
No.
just in unanimous agreement. Okay.
I mean,
Battle of LA
do we have
podcast.
any idea what the meta is going to be this week?
I think Double
Because
Shield
I don't-
may.
It'll probably be like Orisa Sigma with Zen Baptiste with the May and the Hanzo.
I think a little bit of
You
talk.
think? You don't think
Yeah.
there's any potential for a rush comp with Lucio still in there? I feel like there
think
should be,
maybe.
but I don't know what you would run. Like without a Reinhardt, what do you play? A Rissa Ball? Like you might be able to
Right,
play
Josh,
some
I
kind
mean,
of.
we're not here to
comp.
talk about the meta. We're here to talk about.
But the meta
predictions of the teams.
influences your prediction. Because
Bren has
you
places
don't know what
to
the meta
be.
is. How are you
But
supposed to guess?
these are honestly though, they're coin flips. We don't know what they're gonna
Yeah,
play.
a
Yeah.
little bit.
They don't even know what they're gonna play.
Yeah.
It's like some
But
teams have
you-
different graphs. And what the meta
Also,
is on a given week.
this is that match is happening on Thursday. They have like I don't know 50 hours to be able to practice.
Which is why you'll probably
Don't
see them
think-
just play Zen Baptiste with the Orisa Sigma
Yeah,
and
they're
the
gonna play
Hanzo
some-
May because they just played
Yeah.
it. They literally just played that.
Valiant did it all of preseason. They're
Yeah,
like,
they-
cool, thanks.
Yeah, they'll play the same comp.
Next match. We've got the Florida Mayhem versus Paris. We've all gone Paris here.
Yeah.
Florida have not looked good.
So, I was the one who selected the
Shut
matches
up.
that we're gonna predict.
Okay.
And I just put this one in there because I wanted us to talk about how bad the Florida Mayhem are.
Oh, why didn't you?
I mean, I knew that everyone was going to pick Paris. I just wanted people to.
A bad game. Why didn't you tell us to do Boston Toronto?
There's no, there's not a ton of great.
I don't have
You know.
anything to say about Florida personally.
I don't think that Florida are going to prove to be as bad as people believe. Because if you look at the schedule that they've had so far, it's actually been a little difficult. It hasn't been as easy as like the Justice. And I know that what Florida always get compared to the Justice because they sucked ass in the previous year. And they are currently having a similar kind of reign this time. But Florida have played against Philly, against New York, and against Atlanta so far. That's 3 of their 4 losses. So they've played against some tough teams. And they've actually
Are you
already
saying New York is a
beaten
tough
Outlaws.
team?
You've talked a ton, and all I hear is you
Yeah,
comparing
New York,
a turd to
New York are a decent team.
All I hear is you're comparing a turd to a turd. It don't matter.
I don't think they're going to win this match against Paris. I don't even think that it will potentially be that close unless there's some weird meta.
And if they win against Paris, it'll be one of their 6 wins on the year, and then next year they'll come back and there'll be a new Mayhem, and we'll be like, oh yeah, the Mayhem are coming back, and then they'll win 6 games again, and then they'll go away.
No, I think the Mayhem will beat a lot of these absolute low-level Atlantic teams this year. I think you'll see them get wins over the Justice, over Boston, over Toronto, over Houston, over I think they'll be the top of the pack of those kind of teams, and I think they'll be able to contest the lower
still
level of
He still believes.
They'll be the kings of the dribbles. They'll be the kings of the dribbles.
Yeah, but that's a huge improvement for them because at the moment I think people are thinking they're the dribbles of the dribbles.
It's a huge improvement because they have the lowest winning percentage in the league history, and we had one team go 0-40 in a year, and they're worse than them. Yeah, of course they improve off of being statistically the worst team of all time. They will improve off of that.
Yes.
If there are any Florida Mayhem fans watching this podcast, can you please leave the comments down below? How happy are you on a scale of 1 to 10 about being the king of the dribble?
Well,
Like, how does that make you feel as a fan?
At least they
At
have
least
a
they
cool
have
color
something.
scheme, you know?
Also,
they're going to be decent this year.
While on the topic of Shanghai, someone pointed this out to me. Have you realized that they have fielded an entirely different roster every single year? Like, it's totally different, this roster this year to the one last year.
Yeah.
I hadn't realized that, but every single player that they fielded is totally different. They haven't kept anybody on from last year. Even though they won Stage 3 and they were a really good team, they've totally changed their lineup. That's really weird.
They still have players who are the same.
Well, next match.
Well, they still have DM.
But they don't field him.
This is wild. We've got Chengdu versus Guangzhou. Me and Josh have gone for Guangzhou. You two, Matt and Johnny, have gone for Chengdu.
You went for Chengdu?
What?
All right, justify yourselves. Why are you betting on the coin flip?
No, I'm out.
Opted in to the ultimate fiesta. They're good for 1 win a week. The Chengdu Hunters, they
got 0 last week.
Oh look, they're always good for 1 win a week, and I think this one is. I think they're gonna beat Guangzhou. I think they'll lose horribly to Shanghai. I don't know. I just feel like the Hunters, they always pull some shit out when you don't expect it, and I think their logo is hilarious to look at. So I picked the Hunters.
The Hunters beat the Shanghai Dragons last time they played them.
The Chengdu Hunters beat Vancouver last week, Josh, as well.
Yeah, but that was
you just said
the
they
Titans
got 0
were
last week.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I thought they did get 0. That was the Titans that got 0.
But I
what
also
do you think
I was the only
plays?
one to predict that last week.
What do you think Happy plays this week?
I think
Orisa.
All right. Let me run with this.
Just play
Do you think that you can get away with playing Ball, Zarya, Doomfist, Tracer again?
Nah, what the Hunters will do, they'll play Genji, dude. They'll play Genji this week.
The Asian teams were playing a lot of that comp before, and I think that you can run it into the double shield comp and get value.
Yeah.
Especially, and you kind of force them into playing Mei Tracer instead of the Mei Hanzo or something. I could see Chengdu maybe being better this week because I think Wrecking Ball comps will be more viable.
They'll suck the charge into the Guangzhou, the Chengdu zone. And they'll spit him out.
I don't think
I'm
so.
disappointed in Bren.
Guangzhou have got used to their trickery, their deceiving playstyle. They've gotten used to it. I don't think that's going to be the case.
If I could defend my pick in the way Brennan Hook would defend the Shanghai Dragons and rip my shirt off with a Hunter's jersey and just what did he do last year? Squeezed lemons on Eamon's head. I would just be like throwing them at the wall. I forgot what the hell you were doing. That's what I would be doing right now. I picked the Hunters because I like the Hunters, and that's why I did it.
Well,
I just predicted against Neptuno so he can go on Twitter and farm clout like he's done all year.
there you go. What's the next match?
Very harsh. Yeah.
Okay, Chengdu versus Shanghai. Clearly not too confident in Chengdu because we've all gone Shanghai.
Yeah, I just said that. There's no way they beat Shanghai.
I think Chengdu are more likely to beat Shanghai this week than they are to beat Guangzhou.
No, sorry. No.
I'm serious.
Excuse me.
And you know why?
No,
It's the same reasoning as why they beat Shanghai 3-0 last time. Yeah. Because Shanghai are more likely to opt into the Wrecking Ball mirror against Chengdu than any other team. Because they have the DPS to be able to
The last time these two teams played, it wasn't close.
All right. But the previous time, it wasn't close the other way.
All right. This is a fool's errand.
Move on.
I think that if Shanghai try and opt into a DPS battle here, I think Chengdu might take it.
Okay, well, cool. You didn't predict Chengdu, so fuck off.
No, I think normally Shanghai will win.
Get out of my show. It's time for my player of the week, Bren's player of the week. I don't know what we've got playing before. What do we have? Is it it's a video. Which one is this? Are we still recording?
I love how you're the only one that can see it.
I don't even know what it is. It was the one where I thought we were done recording and I just walked out in my pajamas. I just asked if we still recording.
That one's pretty good.
Anyway, my player of the week this week is... I don't think it could have been anyone else other than Carpe, this absolute shat of a human.
Is this the first serious Bren's player of the week?
Yeah, I was getting worried when he said it couldn't be anybody else.
It's also a little bit memey because look, he plugged his YouTube in multiple moments in the series against Paris. But I also thought his performance against Paris as well was top notch. He kept them into this series in multiple sections. Carpe, absolute freak of a human being. He spurred on the conversation for us, claiming that he might be the best DPS player right now, and he's just got personality to boot. So Carpe, my player of the week, I'm pretty pleased, pretty chuffed with this pick.
Is he the early season favorite for MVP?
Ooh.
Yes, I think so.
That's good.
But I do think that it's unlikely he ends up getting it because here's the thing, I just don't see the Philadelphia Fusion continuing to win and win and win and win. They've just always been an up and down team, and they're going to map 5s already. So I think when they end up playing against some of these Pacific teams like Gladiators and Shock, I don't think they're gonna be able to clutch it as much. And
I don't think you're giving enough credit to someone like KGG for introducing a new coaching system into this team and a new start.
No, you should have let Josh pick his MVP, dude. He would have said a Chara or Shu, dude.
I think KGG historically has been a great team.
Has he?
Great coach, yeah. I think historically KGG has done a lot of good things as a coach.
I've heard very good things internally.
I've heard some weird shit as well, though, because he was also the one that split Seoul into an A and B team, and all of the Seoul fans were mauled in that they had like an A and B team, and it was all working really well, but they weren't getting wins.
Like when have Seoul fans not been molding?
Yeah, they're all.
That's like the kind of subsection of a fan base. You got like the ones who just appreciate good Overwatch, the ones who have been following from the beginning, and then you've got the ones who they've got their mind set on K-pop, and then they're just like they are just all the time, you know what I mean? Like they're just gonna be complaining. So I don't know.
Bren has PTSD from calling Ryujong washed.
Yeah, I actually do know, because remember I called Ryu Jae-hyun washed when arguably he was the most washed he's ever been in a particular moment in season 1, and I got crucified on social media. Absolutely crucified for it. But I stand by it. Another thing we neglected to mention about Carpe is he was the first player to reach 4,000 final blows, but it wasn't him that did it. It was his turret.
Torbjorn turret,
on Hawk.
That's just so perfect. It sums up this season so well.
I was going to say that.
Yes.
Doesn't that just encapsulate the entire season so far?
I said during our cast, I started laughing with Mitch. I was like, people are going to look back on season 1 and be like, this woman with a shield entered as a support and ruined the whole thing at the end. Season 2, everybody ran around as tanks and just smashed each other's face. And season 3 will be remembered when Carpe's Torbjorn turret got his 4,000 final blow.
It's a turret with googly eyes as well. That's what makes it so fun.
Oh my!
It's like it sums up the nonsense of hero pools and online play and regional splitting, and it's a meme. The season is a meme, but at least it's entertaining.
I'm just happy it's happening though, with everything going on. I'm just happy that the season's able to continue. We have Overwatch to watch. Cast,
and honestly,
people have it to watch. It's been fun.
It's been entertaining, but also the level of play. This might be a wild and a bit of a hot take, but I don't think the level of play has gone down that much considering we went online.
No, I don't think so either.
It could have gone into the dirt, but I don't know whether I just can't tell what's based on online and what's based on hero pools and like can't pull them apart. I think it's more hero pools than online.
Yeah, it's very difficult to say. I would almost say that it's impossible to tell.
Because like CDL, I can see the players on Twitter mauling about playing online. They're so angry about having to play online and like the lag and all of that stuff and the ping. And I feel like if you didn't tell me that these games were online, I might not know. Like there are some moments where people are getting shattered while they're behind walls and like weird interactions in the kill feed, but the quality of the play
actually notoriously quite good.
It is,
Well, not notorious. I mean, famously quite good.
Yeah.
It's quite playable even on high pings. Like compared to other games, it's not bad at all.
Yeah, they did a good job.
I need a way to wrap up this show, and I don't really know how to do it.
Well, you're the host.
Give me a second. Let me think of a question.
It's what you signed up for.
Let me think of a question.
Wait a second.
Let the host think of a question.
We're building up tension, hype.
Okay.
Yeah,
What is it
better be
going to
good now. Better be good.
Yeah.
Johnny, what do you
This better
think
be the
about
punch.
gyms in the UK facing legal action over rent?